Hello everyone, my name is Victor Röman, and today I'm here to talk about the latest environment I had a chance to work on, World of Warcraft's Orgrimmar. I've played this game for more hours than I can count when I was in my teens, and is what got me into working with 3D. Being able to give it a proper homage was an opportunity that I just couldn't let pass.
Is that Orgrimmar?
The goal of this video is to give you a broader overview of how this project was made.
Oh my
what
god.
the main challenges were, and why working on environments that speak to you on a personal level truly matters.
What the fuck?
So as I mentioned in the intro, I'll be giving you a high-level breakdown of this
environment. Oh my god, this is insane.
So if you like this type of format, please let us know in the comments, and also please let us know if you have any suggestions, and we'll definitely keep that in mind for the future. So what really got me inspired to make this, other than being a Horde player at heart, was the recent release of WoW Classic, or World of Warcraft Classic. I got incredibly inspired to work on something fantasy related, which was a big challenge as I mainly work on sci-fi and contemporary stuff normally.
Holy shit, man.
And what was challenging wasn't the genre itself, but rather the style and design language.
This is like 3D,
and as
right?
you know, WoW has a really distinct style.
How the fuck do you make something like that? That's insane.
Making it look more realistic. So let's take a look at the concept so that you can see what I had to work with. Here's a collage of concepts that I used for this project. But if we take a look in the top left corner here, you'll see the main concept that started this whole thing off. And I absolutely love it, and it truly feels like Orgrimmar.
Yeah, this is incredible.
But it's very basic and bare bones. The structural elements are very chunky and stylized, just like the game itself. But that wasn't gonna give me all the information that I needed, so I had to look for more concepts. That was easier said than done though. I had to grab some screenshots from in-game, but those were obviously also very stylized. They did provide me with some context and information regarding to the terrain and the materials.
I wonder how this compares to the cinematic.
What I did then was
that's what I'm kind of curious about.
At fan art.
Because I saw this picture before a long time ago, not a long time ago, but like maybe like 4 or 5 days ago, whenever it came out, and I actually thought that it was a picture of the cinematic from whenever the thing came out, and so this is completely different.
And shots from the Warcraft movie. And Orgrimmar isn't in that one, but there's a lot of shots of orcish architecture, which I relied quite heavily on. And then, about 3/4 or 75% into the project, the latest cinematic from World of Warcraft was released, and they actually showed Orgrimmar in that one. And it was incredible to see just how many similarities there are between my version and their version. I think we used the same concept.
It seems that way.
I wanted to keep the layout of the original concept with the roads and the paths and so on, and that I also wanted to do a really early version of it before Durotar, the area in which Orgrimmar is, was transformed by years of being trampled and built upon.
Holy shit.
So a bit more lush, meaning some more dead trees and so on, and rugged, in other words. Going back to the style for a moment. This was the part of the production that gave me the hardest time, actually. I wanted to retain the WoW aesthetic, but without having the assets look hand-painted and too diffuse heavy.
That's what I think is really hard. It's like WoW has like a very specific, like, a way it looks.
And you can see what I mean by looking at the screen here. So what I ended up doing was something in between. I decided to aim for a painterly look, as in the general composition, the lighting, and the grading, instead of having the assets themselves looking painterly. I ended up looking at Renaissance paintings, as they generally have a lot of motion and drama in them. And also
there's a lot of shit going on, is what they're saying.
Fit the scene really well. And as you can see here in the construction time-lapse, I hit the composition of the concept really early on, and the architecture and shapes evolved from their original design more towards a realistic style, with a high level of exaggeration and strong design language. Scale was also a really tricky aspect, because the wall is huge, but having it look the part wasn't easy. I decided to work with the wooden elements in the original design and create scaffolding, which not only helps with scale, but also helps tell the story I wanted to tell about this being a really early version of Orgrimmar, still being built.
What the fuck?
If we focus in a bit on the towers here, which...
Like, the crazy part about it is, like, right here. You look at this picture. This is like one gray wall connected to a gray tower. And then somehow that turns into this massive fucking thing. And to me, like, that's what's so impressive about the whole thing, is like the whole growth of the project. I mean, that's actually retail. I don't know about retail, but like in general, it's just fucking amazing. I think this is awesome. Holy shit, man. Yeah, this is really impressive. I'll say that for sure. This is fucking awesome.
I think is a great example of the evolution of the style that I landed on. You can see how I really tried to push the shapes hard. And this is something that I really struggle with and that I'm trying to get better at. It's so important to turn things up to 11 initially, which then lets you dial it back as needed instead of the other way around, because it's so much easier to remove than it is to add. And this bit me a bit in the behind, as I had to do a lot of iterations before I got happy with them.
Jesus Christ.
And each iteration being more exaggerated than the previous one.
I think Orgrimmar is like very, yeah, there's a lot of shit going on with it, because it's like made out of wood and everything.
In this composition, which is backlit,
wait, you're telling me this turned into Orgrimmar?
Recognizable shapes. It was incredible.
Imagine, like, this is the castle, and all right, let's start on it. Now we've got this thing right here. Now this, after a while, is going to turn into, you know, the tower for, you know, the main city. And it's made out of shit and mud. Well, Orgrimmar is a shithole. I mean, you're right about that. Of course it is. Yeah, it's a complete fucking shithole. Watched videos 20 minutes ago. I just think the whole thing looks really, really fucking cool, man. Like, the whole thing is just, it's really impressive to me to see, like, how much work and time they've put into it. I really, really do like it a lot. Guys, by the way, I think they're all down here now. They're not even up at the top. Can we go over here and keep going? Sorry, I had to pause that real quick. Okay.
Important to work with silhouettes and positive shapes. You'll have to excuse my poor attempt at drawing. I'm a 3D artist for a reason.
Yeah, I can see that.
What I'm showing
Holy
here
shit.
is an example of positive shapes, or the silhouette, if you will. It's easy to get lost in the negative details, or the details within the positive shapes. Without good positive details, all those negative details are just noise.
Of course. Of course,
compare these two
absolutely.
examples.
Very true.
And I think we can all agree that the one on the right side is the more recognizable shape.
Well, yeah, of course.
As for the
Because it's
natural
pointier,
elements
that's
or
why.
the terrain,
It's got all the
that was
pointy
actually
things
the
on it.
easy part, and that ended up in a really nice spot early on. So what I did was I created the block out in Maya that I then used as the actual ground and as a base for dressing the cliffs. I just used a couple of 3D rocks from the Megascans library, and I used them to dress the block out with. In order to blend the cliffs together nicely, I used a world aligned texture. I'll be going into detail on how that works in the upcoming livestream, which will also be saved to our YouTube channel so that you can watch it anytime you want. Before we get too caught up in the technical details that I'll go over later, I want to move on to the lighting. This was something else that I got figured out pretty early on. As I mentioned previously, I wanted to go with a backlit setup, just like in the concept. And this worked great, however, it presented me with a bunch of challenges.
What the fuck,
Working
man?
in the shade is, at least in my experience,
I
really
wonder how
tricky,
long,
as
did he say how long this took him to make? That's what's so crazy about this whole thing. Like, holy fuck, man. This is insane.
lot less light to work with, which goes without saying. One of the challenges was separation, and there are several things that I wanted to stand out, such as the huts, towers, the road, fences, and so on. And I did play with the idea of actually rotating the sun,
I see.
so that would be hitting the gate instead. It just didn't have the same dramatic effect though, as you can see. Instead, what I did was I started using fill lights, both to do light painting with colors, but also to cast some fake sunlights onto certain parts, such as rim lights on the towers, the roofs, some extra light on the road, and so on. I also tinted the skylight a bit to an orange color to have it simulate the effect of the sun bouncing light on the sandy ground. Overall, the creative process was really iterative for this project, and I made a lot of decisions and changes along the way. You can see some of the changes I made on screen here for things like the towers, going from more of a masonry heavy style to more of a timber heavy construction. This decision really started a chain reaction, causing me to rethink all the architecture really.
Holy
And
shit.
when working with environments, regardless of scale, I
damn.
always recommend documenting progress shots continuously. Not only does it make decision making easier as you can compare easily, but it also helps as a good motivator, being able to see progress clearly, at least for me. And the biggest thing I learned from this is what I mentioned previously. Just step it up to 11 initially. Don't tread carefully one step at a time.
Holy
Just
fuck,
go
man.
all the way and cut back as needed. Even though I was the only artist working on the project, I can't take all the credit. During the whole process, I had the privilege of receiving fantastic feedback, suggestions, and critique from the art team I work with. And even if you don't have a team you work with, make sure to utilize the power of the internet. Forums such as Polycount, Facebook, groups such as the Quixel art community, or
Jesus
Twitter are all
Christ.
fantastic places where people love to help you and your art grow. It can hurt, but you don't grow without some growing pains.
This is insane. How's sunlight coming
For
through the door?
finalization
I don't
of
think
the
he has
scene,
like the
I
Kirby
started
thing,
refining
like the game actually
post-processing
has.
for things like bloom, grain, chromatic aberrations, vignetting, and so on, and also the color lookup table. So color lookup tables, for those of you who don't know, or LUTs or LUTs for short, is a really intuitive and easy way of grading your scenes. Do keep in mind that it doesn't work in the high dynamic range, but rather in the low dynamic range, so it has its limitations. The way it works is that you simply bring a screenshot into Photoshop, you apply some adjustment layers, adjust the colors and so on, then you load the color lookup table reference from the Epic website. You save it out and load it in Engine. Then you simply plug it into your camera or post-process volume, and you should have a pretty much one-to-one result in Engine. It's as simple as that. One question that I get for pretty much all my projects is how I make my renders look nice and sharp. And it's actually really simple. The top left of the viewport, you can see an arrow. There you can open up the high resolution screenshot tool. And I like to render out shots either at 2 to 3 times the target resolution. Then I just go into Photoshop, scale
So
it
can you
down
move
to
it
the
around
target
though?
resolution
That's what I'm kind of curious
and apply
about.
an unsharp mask.
Like,
And
can
that's
you
it for
change
this
the
video.
camera
I truly
perspective?
hope you enjoy this new format. We make these videos for you guys, so
Holy
we'd
fucking
love your
shit,
feedback so we
guys.
can become better and give you the learning
Yeah,
material
you can.
that
That's
you
what I
want
want to
and
see.
need. So please leave a comment below.
Like the detail
and
is
don't
just
forget
incredible.
to tune in to the upcoming live stream where I'll be covering the details and specific techniques I use to create this scene. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Holy fuck, man. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like, this is really impressive. Like, the way that I look at it is that I see this and I look at the way that it works and everything, and the level of like quality and like detail that they put into this is what I would imagine. Like, remember whenever you were a kid and you saw like, oh wow, this game, you know, looks so cool and realistic, right? And this is what you saw Orgrimmar to be back in like 2006 or something like that. I think that's really what the difference is like people believe this to actually be what Orgrimmar was. And I think that's what the coolest part about it is.